Normally I'd say there's absolutely nothing wrong with being average. Even though I live in the mountains and I live in a ski town, you know what? I'm an average mountain bike rider and I'm an average skier. But if you're like most American savers, that's where I say you probably want to break out of that mold. You don't want to be like the average American saver. So let's go for a walk. I'm going to share with you 5 startling statistics about the average American saver, and really with the goal of helping you see where you're at, and then talk about some things that you can do to break out of that mold and to be in the upper 10%, which frankly doesn't take that much. They're really easy fixes. So let's go for a walk. First, I'm going to talk about the stats, and then we're going to talk about some things that you can do to break out of that mold and to put yourself in the upper 10% of retirees. And again, it's not impossible, I promise you. Okay, emergency funds. I think that's super important to have at least 3 months of living expenses. But 2/3 of Americans do not have 3 months of living expenses saved up. And almost 60% could not cover a $1,000 unexpected expense, be that a car expense or, God forbid, somebody goes to the emergency room and you get a bill for that. So that's not good. So that's item number 1. Item number 2 is retirement savings. Now this is data from Fidelity, and Fidelity is the country's largest custodian where your money's held for 401ks. So this data, Fidelity's in the best position to share some of this data. I'm going to share what the average median 401k balance, which means half have a little bit more, some might have a lot more, but half have more and half have left. That's what the median is. So for all people, the median is $35,000. Now, obviously that's not a lot of money, but let's break this down by age. For 20 to 30 year olds, they have $5,000, the median. 30 to 40 year olds, it triples from 30 to 40 to $16,000. 40 to 49 year olds have $32,000. And then 50 to 59 year olds have $53,000. So, to put that in perspective, $53,000, that's not a lot of money. The average Social Security check is $1,800 a month. So let's say you take an extra $5,000 a year out of your 401k and it grows a little bit. That gives you, 10 to maybe 15 years of living and an extra $5,000, but that doesn't give you much to live on. So that's another strike, unfortunately, for the average American saver. Okay. Let's keep going, and then again I'm going to share with you some of the fixes. You know what? I'm going to tease one of the fixes. So how do you start saving more money if that's your situation? One of the things I like to think about is splitting. There's a quick way to start saving money, and then there's a slower way. The quick way is you basically break out your needs from your wants, and for a short period of time, you really focus on your needs and try to cut out as many of those wants, and then add in the wants that give you as much joy as possible. And that's how you choose which of those wants that you bring in, is by, which ones really bring you joy, and cut out the ones that don't. I mean, how many of us have more than one television streaming service, and how much additional joy does that extra one give you? Silly example. But I think it's one that resonates with more of us, with many of us. So one way to do it quickly is to focus on needs and wants, and if that seems too draconian, another way to do it is think about your money, new money coming in, like raises and promotions, and when you change a job and you make more money. Think about half of that money goes to current you, and half of that money goes to retired you. Right? So over time, you're saving more and more money. And I wish 10% was enough for us to hit our goals. But you know what? It's probably not for most people, unless you have a pension coming in from your company, and most of us don't have that. So, I know it's hard, I know it's aspirational, but I really think the goal should be as close to 20%, maybe even 25% of your take-home pay that you save. Okay, so let's keep going. Another startling statistic is the average Social Security check, as I mentioned earlier, is $1,800. But if you look at that, over 1/3 of people file for Social Security as soon as they can. I've got videos, we'll talk about that in the future. And also some in the past you can look up on the channel. But if you retire at 62, the average check for a 62-year-old is, you ready? $1,245. So that has a big impact. And the average Social Security check for a 70-year-old is $1,965. Now, I'm not saying when you should file for Social Security. That's a subject for another video, and I've got a couple of those, so be sure to check my channel. Okay, the next one. You know, what is another way that people catch up on their savings? And, you know, they maybe start to take more risk than what they should. And I was startled to see that about half of all Americans have some cryptocurrency in their retirement savings. And, you know, that's more of what I call a speculative investment as opposed to a sound investment. It's 44% of folks have crypto. So that tells me that people are trying to catch up. And, you know, the challenge with that is speculative investments tend to favor the people with an unfair information advantage or an unfair skill. And when it comes to investing, when it comes to choosing crypto, really ask yourself, do you really have an unfair advantage? You know, maybe you do. Maybe you're a cybersecurity person, or you know, you work for some central bank in the US or somewhere else. And so you have a feel for, you know, what a currency like this can do. But for the rest of us, it's kind of like going to Las Vegas. And, you know, they build those casinos because you and I are funding that. So they're not building those casinos because you and I are going home winners all the time. So that's another startling statistic that I wanted to share with you. Okay, and now the one according to Motley Fool. Almost half of Americans are worried about running out of money before they run out of life. So they're worried about running out of money during their lifetimes. And that's a big number. And, you know, that doesn't have to be you. I strongly encourage you to work with a fee-only financial advisor to get clarity on that. Because I think a lot of those folks that are worried about running out of money, maybe they don't have to be worried about running out of money. Maybe they're just worried because they don't have a plan. And think about that. People are probably sacrificing unnecessarily. They could be spending more, but because they don't have a plan, they don't know how much they could be spending. So they tend to be spending less. And, you know, when you get to your deathbed and you look back and, you know, a lot of folks are going to have surplus, a significant surplus when they pass away. And they're going to look and say, you know, had I known that, I would have enjoyed the journey more along the way. There's a book called Die with Zero by Bill Perkins that talks about that. That's super important. So, you know, how do you solve these issues? How do you actually save more money? And how do you reach your retirement goals? And I think for that, you really want to watch this video here that talks about retirement secrets that early retirees know. There's certain secrets that I share in that video that people that can retire early know, and you want to watch that video to find out more. Thanks for watching this one. Bye-bye.